Coming up on Business Incorporated. Ghana's government misses Treasury bill target following an ambitious target of 3.33 billion cedis for the auction. Low-income households in Kenya hit hard as government removes subsidies on all petroleum products. And Egypt's Financial Regulatory Authority launches the country's first gold investment fund. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Ladi Williams. First off, let's check in on the market, starting on the African continent. Our CD sentiment there is mostly mixed at this time, with the NGX, I see behind me, up marginally, as is usual on the show, marginally intraday, 0.05%. And we see South Africa's index up convincingly, 0.25% is what we're seeing, still far off that 80,000 level for the all-share index. Other markets we track, North Africa, the EGX 30, that's down 0.28%, 17,320 points. And we see the all-share index in Nairobi there, 4.84%, down on Friday, almost 5%, losing the 100 all-share index level. 93 points is what we're seeing right there. Big drop for that market. Let's head on to the Middle East now. We see it's mostly negative sentiment in the Middle East. We see the markets we track there in the UAE, Abu Dhabi index 1.24% down, and the Dubai index, that's down 1.04%. Other markets we track in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia and Qatari index also down there, 0.44% for Saudi Arabia. We see the Qatari index, that's down a big 1.62%. So that's how the markets are looking in Africa and the Middle East. Let's head on to Europe now. All eyes in Europe have been turned to Turkey right now. A tight battle in the presidential elections between incumbent Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his main rival, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, will likely head into a runoff on May 28th. Joining me now is Chiponda Chimbelu from Berlin. Great to have you, Chip. So what are the results and how are they being received?
Well, there is some disappointment, especially here in Europe. While the opposition's Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu hadn't been expected to get an outright majority, polls had him ahead of incumbent Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who is just shy of 50% in the vote. Now, that's bad news for anyone who was hoping for an end to what has been increasingly authoritarian rule, marked by economic unorthodoxy and a crackdown on freedom of press. Here in Europe, many are disappointed, and they'll be hoping for a different result after the runoff election on May 28.
And why do these elections matter for Europe and the rest of the world?
Well, Erdogan is one of the few world leaders who speaks regularly with Russia's President Putin. He helped negotiate a grain deal that allows Ukrainian wheat to be exported from Black Sea ports to the rest of the world, and that was vital for the global food supply. Turkey is also Syria's neighbor. There's around 4 million Syrians living in Turkey as a result of the war in their country. Decisions on immigration policies will very much affect the future of Syrians in Turkey and whether more of them will have to flee to other countries. In 2016, Brussels and Ankara signed a deal which stops people traveling irregularly from Turkey to the Greek islands. Anyone who does do so can be returned to Turkey. And for every Syrian refugee returned from the islands, the EU accepts one who has waited in Turkey. That has helped discourage irregular migration. Turkey got 6 billion euros from the EU to help it deal with a humanitarian situation faced by refugees, and its citizens received visa-free travel to the EU. The future government of Turkey will play a role in shaping how that immigration deal with Brussels unfolds, and of course, also how the country interacts with Russia, which is increasingly isolated.
Yeah, and what can we expect from European markets today?
Well, for anyone with investments in Turkey or the Turkish lira, there is more uncertainty because the presidential elections are set to head into a runoff on May 28. The election results also bode well for the incumbent, President Erdogan. So if he does win the votes on May 28, what we could see is a continuation of unorthodox economic policies. And we know that they have led to rampant inflation, which reached 85% towards the end of last year. And Turkey now also has a cost of living crisis, which is largely due to the policies of President Erdogan's, it's largely due to his unorthodox economic policies. And apart from that, here in Europe, markets will also have their eyes on the European Commission's spring economic forecast.
All right, thank you so much. That was Chiponda Chimbelu right there from Berlin, giving us the details from the elections in Turkey. All right, let's move on to the UK. We got some latest updates there. Join me now is Juliana. Great to have you, Juliana. So we got that surprise visit by Zelensky to the UK. Is this trip going to cost the UK anything?
Good afternoon, Laddie. Hopefully you can hear me now. And the short answer to your question is yes, it is going to cost the UK a substantial amount of money. Last year, I believe the British government delivered £2.3 billion worth of military aid to Ukraine. And Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he is definitely going to go beyond that this year. So certainly is going to cost a lot of money. And this is actually the Ukrainian president's third official visit to the United Kingdom. We all got that surprise announcement this morning that after a whirlwind European tour, which included visits to Italy, of course, there was that €1 billion visit to Germany where Zelensky met with Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor, and then just yesterday night he was with President Macron in Paris. This morning he arrived in England via helicopter to the Prime Minister's Grace and Favour home in Aylesbury in England. It's called Chequers. They're actually delivering a news conference as we speak, so it's a pretty shame that I'm going to miss that. However, I did just get a printout from a Downing Street spokesperson in my inbox. I'll read that. He said, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, is welcoming Zelensky to Chequers today. Zelensky thanked the Prime Minister for the enduring support for the British people of Ukraine. And he said the Prime Minister has outlined the new package of support the UK has announced, which includes further air defence, missiles and drones. They go on to say that, of course, as the Prime Minister goes about the world later this week, he will be drumming up more support from the Western allies. And I think that's one of the reasons why, of course, Zelensky is here, is because of this counter-offensive, which the country hopes to launch against Russia sometime in the spring. Of course, this war's been going on and on and on. Lots of suggestions that Ukraine may be getting weak if it doesn't have the support from Western allies, Britain being the leader of that and being a friend. The last time Zelensky was here, I was doing this crossover actually outside of Downing Street because it was a huge event. In fact, Zelensky actually went to see King Charles III in Buckingham Palace. It's not as, should we say, pomp as it was last time, but certainly significant. It is going to cost Britain billions of pounds at a time when we're going through our own cost of living crisis. Lots of noise about just how robust our own defence is at the moment. But of course, Ukraine is a key ally. And on top of all of the air defence missiles and those aerial drones that we'll be sending, we're also training a significant number of military personnel. Last time Zelensky was here, he went to actually go and visit them in Kent, where they are training. And also for these air defence missiles, pilot jets need to be trained. So I do believe there is going to be a launch of some sort of training scheme for Ukrainian pilots towards the end of this quarter. So yes, we are going to be spending lots of money, but if you only have to look on Twitter to see what Rishi Sunak has been posting, he is a strong ally of Volodymyr Zelensky, and it's going to be whatever it takes to stop this war that Russia has implemented on the people.
Yeah, I guess whatever it takes at this point. Let's look at all the stories now. We see EY, one of the big four accountancy firms, it's shaking up its leadership of its UK operations. Why is that?
Yes, don't know much about this story. This is something that's really being reported by Sky News, which is a British broadcaster. But basically, Ernst & Young, as you said, one of the big four accountancy firms, they've been going through lots of jostling at the top level over the past couple of months. I believe last month they cut 5% of their workforce in America, which amounted to about 3,000 staff. This is because we know corporate America, not just corporate America, but corporates across the world are really struggling at the moment because consumer habits have changed, the way people work has changed, and it is affecting the accountancy firms. Now, there has been lots of issues for the big four accounting giants in the UK over the past couple of months. There have been takeovers of some really big firms and a lot of issues with their accounting, some major black holes, and EY have been a part of that. They did announce at the beginning of the year that they would be splitting up their accounting division from their consultancy division, which was basically going to make their operations lots more transparent. And then we got the news from the Financial Times that that is going to be scuppered. Were there issues at the top on who should be where? We don't know. Again, it's a lot of speculation and rumour. And then, as I was saying, Sky News reporting this morning that a memo was shared amongst the top execs in EY last week, suggesting that the executive committee would be tailored down from 13 at the top to about 8, which means there are going to be significant job cuts. So when we get more information about this story, we will tell you. But certainly, as we're seeing with the big tech firms, we're also seeing that there are huge job losses affecting corporates as well, including those in the UK.
All right, we'll keep tracking that story, so the developing story there. But how the market's looking first trading day of the week?
Yeah, first trading day of the week, first full trading day, actually, because we had bank holiday Monday last week to celebrate the coronation of King Charles. And the blue chip index is actually in positive territory at intraday. I was trying to talk to you on Business Morning this morning. You couldn't hear me, Laddie. One of the stories that I wanted to talk to you about was Currys, which is a pretty popular British electronics technology firm in the UK. They've really struggled over the past couple of months. In fact, their share price has fallen about 30% this year. And that's just because we are going through a cost of living. Lots of people are putting aside those big ticket items such as laptops, computers, white goods, and they're not buying them. And the issue that Currys has had is that lots of people are going to cheaper competitors. However, this morning they uplifted their profit guidance to investors, and they are one of the biggest risers on the blue chip index. So if we have a look at those numbers, the all share at intraday is up 0.38%. The FTSE 100 is up by 0.39%, and the FTSE 250, the domestic market, that is up by 0.13%. In the currencies market, the British pound is continuing its rally against the US dollar. It's up by 0.31% against the greenback, also up against the euro by 0.18%, and up against the Japanese yen by 0.66%, Laddie.
All right, Juliana, thank you so much. I'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, so South Africans are facing another round of power outages despite Eskom's promises to keep the lights on. Reduced generation capacity has been blamed on unexpected outages and scheduled maintenance at several power facilities. These have jeopardized the stability of the national electricity grid, affecting many individuals across the country. So where does the country's energy crisis go from here? Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Timosa, reports.
Electricity crisis is not getting better. With up to 12 hours of daily blackouts, this is taking its toll on just about every aspect of the economy. From customers to small and big businesses, it's an unending struggle. Lino Figueira runs the Eagle Landing, a fruit, vegetable and seafood store, and he says staff have had to be laid off, perishable stock often lost, while the cost of doing business has hit the roof.
It's caused quite a lot. A big impact on getting your electricity to you, and getting your water resources is a problem to the farmers. So that entails we don't get our stock that we need. Unfortunately, I've had to downscale a few people. That's something that I have to do in order to keep myself afloat, basically. At the moment, I've got 25, and I have had to let go about 5 so far. Yeah.
While the people look to government to put an end to the situation, government still seems to be in the dark. Several power facility tours and high-level meetings later, the new electricity minister, Kerosene says even more meetings are on the cards.
I think our primary focus is to resolve the load shedding question. We understand that there is some degree of urgency.
And I still say today, what South Africa needs right now is emergency energy that we can bring in. Other countries have done so, and I've been to a few countries on our continent. They have done so. They brought in ships that are able to generate energy and immediately solve their energy challenges and problems.
Dr. Toyosi Craig, an energy management consultant, suggested a variety of quick solutions that could alleviate load shedding.
And then, if the right personalities are not there, take them out, get the right people to do it. And don't listen to what the world is saying in terms of, you hear the world say we must do this. This is the only kind of electricity generation that you must do, right? We're Africans. We need help, and it's urgent. Because France and UK or maybe America is doing something and they say we should do something, doesn't mean we should do it. We have some natural resources in South Africa that can be used. Use it.
What is more frustrating is there's no clear plan to get the nation out of the darkness just yet. The question remains, is South Africa on the verge of a total blackout? Tsepo Hadima is an independent economic analyst.
Is the imminent collapse of the grid something that we can expect? Absolutely. Unfortunately, it is so. And this has been confirmed by even the insurance companies have now excluded any claims that might arise from the total collapse of the grid.
The North Gauteng High Court has given the government 60 days to exempt hospitals, schools and police stations from power cuts. However, the presidency and the Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, indicated that they will appeal this ruling. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Yeah, the power shortage is still quite high right there in South Africa. We'll take a break now. When we come back, more stories from the African continent. Just stay with us. Welcome back now to our next conversation. Well, the price of kerosene in Kenya has increased by 15 shillings a litre following the government's withdrawal of subsidy on all petroleum products, pushing pump prices to record highs. Let's see how Kenyans are managing now. Joining me is Steve Ogutu, development expert. Great to have you, Steve.
Thank you for having me, Laddie. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Fantastic. So quite a big jump there, but how are poor households managing this increase in the price of kerosene?
It's really tough because, kerosene is a basic commodity here, especially for most households in the rural areas and informal settlements. And the withdrawal of the levy is such a big hit to those families that depends on this and who are the majority of this country. And this has this compounded with the current inflation that we are experiencing and the COVID-19 socioeconomic impact that most countries are still grappling with. It is a very big challenge here.
And definitely another issue is the Finance Bill 2023 in Kenya. That's another tough pill for Kenyans to swallow. It's proposing higher taxes. How are Kenyans reacting to this?
It's a very contentious bill. Right now, it's being debated left, right, and center. But it's highly being opposed by majority of Kenyans, and it's because the current president, our new president, no longer new though, this is his 7th month since his elections, is saying that he's trying to move the country from relying on external loans, because he feels that has really held back the country in terms of development. Right now, we are paying close to 70% of our revenue collections to debt repayment. So very less goes to development. And so what the president is saying is he believes that when the tax base is expanded, then that provides revenue for him to implement his development agenda. But then what that means is many Kenyans have to struggle because life is not very easy here right now. I mean, the cost of living is way high. And another controversial bit that has been included in this finance bill is, or the proposed finance bill is mandatory 3% deduction of from the salaries of those employed that should go into what he's calling affordable housing. And this is something that is being opposed by majority of Kenyans because there are other forms of deductions that are currently happening. 30% of deductions, statutory deductions that happens that is derived from from our salaries here. So it's a big challenge, but let's see how that will happen.
Because it looks like most of these governments are in a tight corner. Right now you have high, servicing costs for, debt. You can't take more loans. We're seeing, liquidity crunch all over. Now they're having to rely on, taxes at this point. What else do they have in their playbook at this time? Talking about governments like Kenya. Hello, Steve. Okay, all right, looks like, I don't think Steve, can you hear me? Okay, I think we lost Steve there. Network issues all over again. All right, we'll try and get him again. Okay, Steve, I think I have you now. I lost you before, Steve.
Yes. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so did you hear my question?
No, I didn't. Please repeat.
Okay, so I was talking about, governments like Kenya right now, they're quite in a tight corner. They can't raise funds from external markets at this time because liquidity is squeezed. We're seeing, rate hikes, globally, made the cost of borrowing really high at this time. So now they're having to rely heavily on taxes. What else do they have in their playbook at this time? Oh, Steve. Guess we lost Steve again. All right, we'll try and get to Steve's thoughts later on. But let's look at other stories now, starting in West Africa. See, Ghana's government missed its Treasury bills target by about 15.9%, following an ambitious target of 3.33 billion cedis for the auction. According to the auction results, the government secured 2.80 billion cedis from the sale of short-term securities. A chunk of the bids came from 91-day T-bills. Little above 2.31 billion cedis were tendered. The government, however, accepted about 99% of the bids. For the 182-day T-bill, the government got 355.2 million cedis, whilst it received 116.60 million cedis from the 364-day T-bills. However, interest rates continued to surge despite financing assurance to Ghana's creditor committee under the G20 framework. The government has set an ambitious target of primarily settlement maturities worth 3.33 billion cedis and use the rest to pay coupon payments of pension bondholders. And Egypt's Financial Regulatory Authority approved the establishment of the nation's first fund to invest in gold, to enhance financial and investment inclusion and build an advanced non-banking financial sector that's inclusive and stimulates economic growth. The move is part of the FRA's plan to support the government's efforts to boost financial and investment inclusion and develop an inclusive non-banking financial sector with a catalytic role in enhancing the economy. And that's it on Business Incorporated today. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.